Okay, so I hope you are able to see my screen. In the morning session, you have learned about the basics of protein. Ma'am has told you about the databases, about some tools which we apply. So I'm going to start with protein secondary structures. So first we need to know what are the various structures. Though ma'am has given you an insight, again I'm going to tell you. Talking about the proteins, we have 4 levels of protein structures. The very basic structure is where only the sequence of amino acids is considered is known as primary structure. Okay, so where we take only the consideration the linear sequence of amino acids, that is known as, just a second. Okay, so where we take only the linear sequence of amino acids, that is known as primary structure. When these amino acids fold into specific conformations, you know that amino acids join with each other by means of peptide bond. And what is peptide bond? Peptide bond is a bond which is formed between the carboxylic group of one amino acid and amine group of other amino acids. So this CONH that you are seeing on the screen, this is the peptide bond that links one amino acid with another. So now these peptide bonds, the different proteins have the tendency that their hydrogens can interact with each other and form a backbone of the hydrogen atoms. And this leads to conformation of the proteins into alpha helices and beta sheets. I'll come to the detailed structure of alpha helices and beta sheets in next slides. Further, the secondary structure of the proteins is arranged in a three-dimensional form by means of hydrophobic interactions and hydrogen bonds and sulfur bridges. So this forms the tertiary structure, as you can see here, that the moment disulfide bonds come into interaction, hydrophobic interactions are occurring between the amino acids, then the proteins form a three-dimensional structure known as tertiary structure of proteins. And last level of protein structure is quaternary structure. The associations of two or more polypeptides into a multi-unit subcomplex. For example, hemoglobin molecule. In hemoglobin molecule, we have got two alpha chains, two beta chains. So when multiple chains are coming into contact and forming the structure of protein in a more complex manner, that is known as quaternary structure. So our proteins arrange into 4 types of the structure. When we talk only about the linear sequence, it is the primary structure. When we talk about the linking of the proteins by means of hydrogen bonds, it is secondary structure. When we talk about the three-dimensional structure of the protein by means of hydrophobic interactions, hydrogen bonds and sulfur bridges, it is known as tertiary structure. And the moment one or more polypeptides come together and form a subunit type of the structure, that is known as quaternary structure. Now I'll discuss in detail about, so primary I discussed. We know that we have got 20 amino acids which form the proteins. Now what are the major secondary structure of the proteins? So alpha helices, beta pleated sheets or strands, what we call, turns and coils. These 4 are my main type of secondary structures. What is alpha helix? Alpha helix is a conformation in which the proteins are, the backbone of the proteins is formed by the hydrogen bonds between each amino acid. So you can see here that there is a, in red color I have shown that hydrogen bond is existing in the backbone. The protein has folded itself into a spiral conformation. R is the side groups, alkyl chains which are hanging out. So alpha helices are the spiral shaped structure in which there are around 3.6 amino acid residues per turn. If I assume that I had I amino acid, so I plus 3, third amino acid is going to be linked with that ith amino acid by means of hydrogen bonds. And so it is said that a helix of 36 amino acids would form around 10 turns. I hope the logic is clear. Since in one turn, we are having 3.6 amino acids. So if I had 36 amino acids, how many turns? 36 by 10. Okay? क्योंकि 3.6 एक टर्न में आ रहे हैं हमारे, So that means 10 terms will be formed in 36 amino acids. Now, very important concept is when you are trying to predict the secondary structure, the Ramachandran plot comes into account. What is Ramachandran plot? Ramachandran plot tells us the specific possible conformations of the protein, and it tells us what are the steric hindrances, what movements are, it tells us the dihedral angles. Now, what is a dihedral angle? I will show you on my. See, as I told you just that two proteins are linked together by means of amide linkages, which is formed by the carboxylic group and amine group. So main carbon here is C alpha carbon of the two linked amino acids. This C alpha is linked to the neighboring nitrogen and carboxylic group of the other amino acids. So dihedral angle, this phi and psi here, they are known as dihedral angles. What is a dihedral angle? Dihedral angle is an angle formed by combination of four atoms, and it defines a plane of their movement. So if I talk about four atoms here, C, N, this pura, C, N, C, alpha and C. These four form one plane. So this angle, the angle, dihedral angle formed by the combination of C, N, C, alpha and C. This is known as phi. And next dihedral angle, again 4 atoms are required. So if I start from N, N, C, alpha, C and N. These 4 are going to form my psi angle. That was phi and this is psi. And omega is my dihedral angle if I start from C alpha carbon. So 4 atoms have to be taken because the movement of atoms, movement of any atom happens around a plane, and for forming a plane we need 4 atoms and the linkages. So C alpha, C, N and this C alpha, next main carbon. This forms my omega angle. So these are also known as the torsion angles, and we find out the possible rotations of the amino acids in the plane by means of phi and psi angles, the torsional angles or the dihedral angles, and it tells us an overview. You plot when you see the Ramachandran plot, you will see a plot between psi and phi values, and it will show you 4 quadrants. जिसमें आपको ये पता होगा कि फर्स्ट क्वाड्रेंट में अल्फा हेलिसेस हैं, दूसरे में अलाउड बीटा शीट्स हैं. So if you see the Ramachandran plot, it is a plot between the phi and psi angles, and it provides that which rotations, which type of conformations of proteins are possible, and which rotations of polypeptide are not allowed due to steric hindrance. So this concept is very important when you go for the protein secondary structure prediction, that you have to see the Ramachandran plot, you have to see the phi and psi angles and the possible rotations and the possible steric hindrances. Let's move to the next slide. So here I have tried to show you a Ramachandran plot. You can see that the dot regions are the so-called allowed regions, and there are many regions which are known as forbidden regions, disallowed regions. So अगर value आपकी इस range में आती है, you will have to see what if the value is between -180 to 0 and the psi value is between 0 to -180, then the second quadrant is coming into being. So I will not go into much detail here because we are not concerned with the exact calculations of Ramachandran plot. I only wanted you to show that there are 2 dihedral angles in the protein and the movement is allowed in a specific conformation. There are certain steric hindrances in the protein movements. So due to this restrictions, the proteins adopt specific conformations and are into alpha helical form or beta sheets form. What is beta sheets? Beta sheets is it's a secondary structure of protein organization in which the backbone of the protein is extended into a zigzag form, such that peptide bonds are organized in the planes of alternating slopes. What do I mean by this? I will show you in a figure. So here you can see that 2 peptides have arranged themselves This is my disulfide. This is my C alpha atom, main carbon atom, which is linked to the carboxylic group and NH group, forming a peptide bond. So you can see in this, in first sheet, both the polypeptides are having their C terminus towards one end. So when both the C terminus end of the proteins of the peptides are in the same direction, then it is known as parallel beta sheets. And when you see that one protein is having its C terminus facing towards the N terminus of the second peptide, and this is known as anti-parallel beta sheets. So our proteins have the tendency to organize themselves into the form of the beta sheets, which could be parallel beta sheets or anti-parallel beta sheets. Parallel beta sheets are those beta sheets in which the C terminus of both the segments face on the same side. इसलिए ये parallel हो गई. हम arrow से अगर denote करें तो we denote it like this. Arrows facing in same direction. And the moment I write it like this, one arrow facing upwards and second arrow facing downwards, that means I'm talking about the anti-parallel beta sheets. So I hope you are clear that the R proteins can arrange themselves into two forms, into parallel forms and into anti-parallel beta sheet forms. So parallel arrangement, it has been seen is that it is less stable, because the geometry of the individual amino acid molecules forces the hydrogen bonds to occur at an angle that makes it weaker. So if you are having both the C terminus facing towards each other, in that case it is seen that the secondary structure is less stable because the hydrogen bonding is weak in this case. As you can see here, see, this is my bond. But in case of anti-parallel beta sheets, hydrogen bonds are aligned opposite to each other. And here the bonding is much stronger, and so anti-parallel beta sheet conformation is more stable due to strong hydrogen bonding as compared to weak hydrogen bonding seen in case of parallel beta sheets. So whenever the question comes that which form of beta sheet arrangement is more stable and has got a stronger hydrogen bonding, the answer should be anti-parallel beta sheets. Then the random arrangements, I further want to tell you that is the alpha helical conformation that I talked about. It is into different types depending on what is the bond. If the bonding is happening between ith and I plus 3, then it is 310 alpha helix. If the bonding is happening between I and I plus 4, then it is pi helix. So we have further divided the alpha helix based on the type of molecules interacting with each other. And turns and coils are my random arrangements. Let's move to the, I'll come to the main part now, which is the prediction of secondary structure. Once I have known that what is alpha helix, what is beta sheet, we should know how do we predict it by using bioinformatics. So there are many methods, students, which have been classified into various categories. We have the very ancient methods for predicting secondary structure are statistical methods. And statistical methods are further defined by two main methods, Chow-Fasman and Gore. Gore is known as information theory based methods. Then we have homology based methods, which is nearest neighbor method, as I have shown you here. Apart from that, we use neural network based methods, artificial neural network, and machine learning based methods, support vector machine based methods. So mainly I will talk about statistical methods here and the neural network based here in my slides. So you should know that if we want to predict the secondary structure of the proteins, we can go for Chow-Fasman, Gore, nearest neighbor method, or neural network, or machine learning methods using support vector machines or ANN. Let me disable the annotation. Okay. So what is Chow-Fasman? Let us start with that. The Chow-Fasman algorithm was given by two scientists in 1978. And what we do here, what we have to do, we know that we have got 20 amino acids. Whether a particular amino acid, let's say alanine, is it going to form a alpha helix, or is it going to form a beta sheet, or a turn, or a coil? So how do we do it? In Chow-Fasman, as I said, it's a statistical method. We assign a propensity value to the amino acids. Now, what is the propensity value? Propensity value is the probability of each amino acid to be present in a particular conformation. In Chow-Fasman, we have made a matrix whereby we have assigned a propensity value of each amino acid to be in a specific secondary structure conformation. And this prediction value, this propensity value of the amino acids is considered based on its position. Like if I'm talking that I'm having amino acid, let me show you by example on the screen. Let us say I have got amino acid, alanine, lysine, glycine, lot of W. I know that alanine is present in first position here. It could be that in some other residue, alanine is present at second position, or in some other case, it is present at third position. So this value which I am assigning, that preference of this alanine to be in an alpha helical form, is dependent on the position also. That what is the position of this amino acid. Now, once I have made you clear that in Chow-Fasman, we need to make a propensity, we need to find out the propensity values of amino acids. Then you should ask me, ma'am, how do we do it? What do you mean by propensity value in terms of the quantification? Karenge kaise? Let me come to the next slide. See, so in terms of the statistical formula, the propensity value is defined by this. I have to take the ratio of percentage of residue I in alpha helical form divided by percentage of all residues in alpha helical form. What do I mean by this? मैंने यहाँ पे लिखा है ना, आपको propensity value जो निकालनी है, this propensity value, if I am assuming that this is my first step, percentage of amino acid I in alpha helical form, and this is my second step, percentage of all residues in alpha helical form. So propensity value is defined as a ratio of 1/2. That means first parameter here is percentage of residue I in alpha helix divided by percentage of all residues in a protein in alpha helical form. So let's come to the next slide. What do I mean by this? I've given you an example here that I've assumed मैंने remove नहीं किया है. ये एक मेरे पास अमाइनो एसिड का सीक्वेंस था, प्राइमरी सीक्वेंस, एंड आई वांट टू नो कि इस अमाइनो एसिड में ई जी ई डब्ल्यू क्यू ये जो अमाइनो एसिड्स है ये किस कन्फर्मेशन में होंगे. तो मैंने अभी अभी बोला हमें हर अमाइनो एसिड का चाउ-फास्मैन में एक प्रोपेंसिटी वैल्यू दे रखा है कि अगर एलानीन या वैलीन इस वाली पोजीशन पे प्रेजेंट है, लेट अस से इट इज 17th पोजीशन, देन व्हाट इज द प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ दिस वैलीन एट 17th पोजीशन टू फॉर्म alpha helix. That is what we are doing. So we have to find out the propensity value. So this is an example. I have taken the example of alanine. तो पहला मुझे ये पता करना पड़ेगा what is the percentage of alanine in this given sequence in the alpha helix form. So let us say that if I am seeing that there are 16 alanine, total number of alanine amino acids present in the protein is 16, and out of the 16 alanine, 15 amino acids are found to be in alpha helical form. So how do I find out the percentage of alanine in alpha helical form? Number of alanine in alpha helix form divided by total number of alanine. So it comes out to be 0.94. Now second part of propensity I told you that we have to see percentage of all residues in alpha helical form. So let us say that the total size of protein sequence was 153. And out of this 153, the total number of amino acids, it could be alanine, valine, proline, isoleucine, any amino acid, and total number of amino acids in alpha helical form in this 153 long amino acid was 115. So percentage, second value was finding the percentage of all residues in alpha helical form. So I will take 115 which are in alpha helical form divided by total number of amino acids which were in alpha helical form, which were forming the total of protein sequence. तो अगर मेरे पास 153 सीक्वेंस का प्रोटीन था, इसमें से 115 were in alpha helical form, and I had to calculate the propensity of alanine to be an alpha helical form. So total alanine in this 153 long amino acid sequence were 16, and out of these 16 I saw that 15 are in alpha helical form. 15 alanine are in alpha helical form. So I will first see what is the percentage of that particular amino acid in a helix, which is calculated as number of amino acids in alpha helical form divided by total number of that amino acid. Then on the denominator side, numerator to aapka ye ho gaya. Denominator side, you will see the percentage of all residues in a particular alpha helical form, which is 115 were in alpha helical divided by 153. So now the propensity, the third step, propensity, as I had referred to in the previous slide, the propensity is defined as percentage of a particular amino acid at the ith position in alpha helical form divided by total number of amino acids in the total sequence which are present in that particular alpha helical shape. So it is coming that first value was 0.94 and second value was 0.75. So propensity of alanine to be in alpha helical form is 0.94 divided by 0.75, which comes out to be 1.25. Similarly, propensity of glycine to be in alpha helical form was calculated. They had seen how many number of glycine are in alpha helical form divided by total number of glycine. In the denominator, they have seen total number of residues. ये तो आपका फिक्स ही रहेगा. टोटल जो था 115 अमाइनो एसिड थे जो अल्फा हेलिकल फॉर्म में थे, डिवाइडेड बाय टोटल नंबर ऑफ अमाइनो एसिड्स इन प्रोटीन व्हिच वाज 0.75. So it is 0.5 divided by again 0.75. So propensity is calculated. I hope you are clear that by this formula we have find out what is the propensity value of each amino acid to be in a specific secondary structure form. इसी तरीके से हम जो अमाइनो एसिड्स हैं उनकी बीटा शीट फॉर्म करने की टेंडेंसी क्या है, उनकी टर्न फॉर्म करने की टेंडेंसी क्या है. So for each of the amino acid, 20 amino acids in different positions, you will find out their propensity values to be in alpha helical, to be in beta sheet, to be in turn. Now let's come to the next step. After finding this, I am showing you the matrix which is made for all the amino acids. So you can see here, these are the Chow-Fasman parameters or the propensity values. So using the same formula as I told you in the last slide, all the amino acids have been scored for their propensity to be in alpha helical, for their probability to be in beta sheets, and for their probability to be in the turn form. तो हर एक अमाइनो एसिड के लिए, हर एक पोजीशन के लिए उसकी जो अलग अलग वैल्यूज हैं, अलग अलग सेकेंडरी स्ट्रक्चर में रहने के लिए वो निकाल ली. और ये निकालने के बाद now in Chow-Fasman we take a window size of 4. If I had to write the algorithm of the Chow-Fasman, I will write it like this: compute the occurrence of 20 residues in helical form, compute the occurrence of 20 residues in beta sheet, and compute the occurrence of 20 amino acids to be in the turn form. So compute the occurrence of these 20 residues in whole protein, compute the ratio, and compute the total number of the residues in helical form divided by the total number of residues in a protein, and then you get the propensity value. After getting the propensity value, now what we have to do is that we have to make a window size, that if this was my protein, sequence, it's not, I have calculated the propensity value. After calculating the propensity value of each amino acid, I will take a window size of 6. You need to remember here is that because when I will talk about the Gore algorithm, there the window size is 17. In Chow-Fasman, I am going to take a window size of 6. What do I mean by 6? जब मैं start करूंगी करना, तो let us say I will start with these first 6. VLS, EGE. Then I will again go to next 6. Then I will go to the next 6. I will keep on seeing up agar out of 6. If my 4 residues have the probability to be in alpha helix greater than 1. Please pay attention. If out of my 6 residues, 4 have the probability to be in alpha helix greater than 1, then I will say that these are going to form the alpha helix. And if the probability to be in alpha helix was more for beta sheet, then they will told to be in beta sheet conformation. Then again, move on to the next. Overlapping segments आपको लेने पड़ते हैं and find out what is the probability of the next 6 amino acids. You will do a scoring of 4. जो मैंने अभी भी आपको बताई है, propensity values जो इस टेबल में दी हैं ये ऐड की जाती हैं, ठीक है? Let's move ahead. Okay. So this is my algorithm that scan the window, identify the reason where 4 out of 6 residues have the probability to be in alpha helix more than 1. As I just told you that we will take a window size of 6 and we will see that what is the probability of 4 out of 6 to be in a particular form. So if this probability to form the alpha helix is greater than 1, we will say this particular segment will be in form of a alpha helix. We will continue scanning till we found a continuous residue which has a probability to be in alpha helix less than 1. The moment we come to that segment where the probability to form alpha helix is less than 1, we will say this is end of helix, right? Similarly, if the segment is longer than 5 amino acids, या फिर ऐसा हो कि जहां हमें अल्फा हेलिक्स की प्रोबेबिलिटी बीटा शीट से ज्यादा मिल रही हो, तो वो फिर से हम बोलते हैं कि ये भी अल्फा हेलिक्स होगा. इसी तरीके से अलग अलग स्कैन करने पड़ेंगे हमको सेगमेंट्स टू फाइंड आउट कि बीटा शीट बनाने की टेंडेंसी क्या है. इफ आई हैड फाइंड आउट दैट 4 out of 6 amino acids had a tendency to form a beta sheet more than 1, then I will say that this segment is going to form beta sheet and I will continue scanning and I will stop at that position where the probability to form beta sheet is less than 1. You need to remember this, how to find out where to stop. And similarly, at the positions when we see that the tendency to form turn is greater than alpha helix in beta sheet, that position is called as a turn region. Here you are taking a 4 residues, scoring of 4. So if I have said that J is my residue number, so I will take next 3 residues, score next 3, J plus 1, J plus 2, J plus 3, and find out their propensity values. So if the probability to be in turn is greater than alpha helix and beta sheet, then only you go for the turn. Otherwise, mainly the structure that you score are alpha helical structures and beta sheets. Now, next algorithm is Gore algorithm. The drawback of that Chow-Fasman was that they only considered a very small window size and they did not take into account the effect of the neighboring amino acid. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि एक amino acid discrete present है. It is having its other neighbors also. So in this case, instead of taking a window size of 6 and doing scoring of 4, we go for scoring of 17 amino acids. You need to know that Gore method is based on information theory and it takes into account that each amino acid individually influences the secondary structure of the next amino acids. So here you will be taking, look on my screen, here you will be taking the window size of 17 amino acids. and considering the central amino acid, you will do the scoring of -8 position, yani 8 amino acid which are flanking from the left side, and +8 positions. Next 8 amino acids flanking on the right side. So 8 amino acids present on the right, 8 amino acids present on the left, and this is my central amino acid. So total amino acids which will be scored is 8 plus 1 central amino acid plus 8. So you are going to use a window size of 17 here, taking a central amino acid and going towards the -8 positions and +8 positions. Now, how do we do the calculation here? Let's come to that. And Gore method was given by Garnier, Rosguthorpe, and Robson in 1978. So this is how we find out in Gore method that information content for one amino acid is taken in this way. SSI, probability of a residue at position I to form a secondary structure, divided by probability of that secondary structure at that position to be not in a alpha helical form. इसमें आपको देखना पड़ेगा, दोनों probability लिए मैंने. First, on the upper side, I have taken the probability of a particular amino acid at position I to be in a specific secondary structure form, divided by probability of that amino acid at position I to be not in that particular conformation, upon probability of ln of probability of in all the amino acids in that sequence to form particular secondary structure, divided by probability of the amino acids to be not in that particular secondary structure. अब ये आपको मैंने फॉर्मूला बता दिया, बट इसको समझाने के लिए समझ में तो आया नहीं होगा जब तक एग्जांपल नहीं दूंगी मैं. Let's see this example. What I said just now. I have taken again the example of alanine. So as I said, that at ith position, I have to first see what is the probability of the alanine to be in the alpha helical form, divided by probability of alanine to be not in alpha helical form. So I had total number of residues. Let me use the annotation. Total number of alanine present in the protein were 300, right? And out of these 300 alanine, it was seen that 210 alanine residues are forming helix. So if out of 300, 210 are forming helix, that means remaining 90 are not forming helix. Okay. So how do I find out the probability of alanine to form a helix? This is 210 divided by 300. जितने आपके amino acids alanine आपके जितने helical form में है, 210 divided by 300. So this comes to be 0.70. That means probability to form alpha helix is 0.7. And what is the probability to not form alpha helix? This is 90 divided by 300. Right? Second part which I said to you. Now, the denominator part here of the equation was saying information content, that second part is this ln p. कैसे आप निकालेंगे? What is the probability of all the amino acids to be in alpha helical divided by to be not in alpha helical? So let's come to my example again. So here I saw that total number of amino acids in the protein were 1800. Alanine कितने थे? 300, और total amino acids थे 1800. And out of this 1800, it was seen that 810 amino acids are existing in alpha helical form. So what is the probability of all the amino acids in the sequence to be in alpha helical form? 810 upon 1800. And what is the probability to be not in alpha helical form? 1800 minus 810. It gives us 990. So the probability to be not in alpha helical form is 990 divided by 1800, which comes out to be 0.55. So now once I have calculated all the values, I can easily see the information content. Information content kya tha? Logarithm of particular amino acid to be in a particular secondary structure. In this case, alpha helix banane ka hai 0.70 alanine ka, divided by not to be in a alpha helical form for alanine, which is minus 0.30, sorry, minus ln of all the amino acids in that, which was 0.4 by not to be in that conformation, 0.55 from these four values. So once I have calculated these four for a particular amino acids, I can find out the information content, which is this 1.047. So I hope you have understood. Here I have taken into account the effect of the neighboring amino acids also, क्योंकि मैंने देखा है कि probability क्या है और क्या नहीं है बनने की. Now in the similar manner, you will find out the information content for all the 20 amino acids in a protein at a particular position, and you will see those reasons when you are scoring the 17 amino acids. You will see, based on the information theory, you will add these values. Sometimes this also comes into negative. So total information for that 17 amino acids is added up. If it is more than 4, then we say that yes, if the score is more than 4, then we say that this particular amino acid is going to form alpha helix. If it is not, then we say whether it is going to form the beta sheet. तो आपको information content निकाल के add करके फिर निकालना पड़ेगा इसमें. So it is similar to the Chow-Fasman, but the only difference is that here you are using the information content and not the propensity values. And the window size of Chow-Fasman was 6. Here the window size is 17. Okay, let's talk about next method. I'll clear my screen first. It's not clearing. So next method is nearest neighbor method. As ma'am has told you that we need to find out the homologs. So the basic assumption here is that the sequence having those sequences which have got the sequence similarity, they will also have the structural similarity. It is a known rule of thumb in bioinformatics that same sequence means same kind of a structure means same kind of function. So sequence, structure and function, they all are related. So this method, nearest neighbor method, is based on the BLAST. Here we find out the matching sequences which are homologous to our query sequence, and nearly all the proteins which have more than identical percentage of 35% are seen to have the same secondary structure. So on the basis of the BLAST, you find out the homologs and you check out the structure of the homologs. If it is known that the homologs are existing in beta sheet, then your protein having identity value more than 35% will be assumed to have a beta sheet structure. So nearest neighbor algorithm is based on finding the nearest homologs and using the structural database to find out the secondary structure of the matching homologs. Nowadays, what we use is we use machine learning methods for secondary structure prediction. And in machine learning, I will not go much into detail because it's a complete course in itself. So we use artificial neural networks here. Hidden Markov model is also used. Support vector machines are also used, but I will only cover one topic, which is artificial neural network. What is artificial neural network? Artificial neural network is a model which is similar to the human neural network. We assume that our neurons have got a processing capability. You give any information to the neurons, they process it and generate an outcome, and that outcome is transmitted from one neuron to another neurons. So mimicking that model, we have made when we provide certain n number of inputs. Here I have shown you 3 inputs, input 1, input 2 and input 3, to a particular function sigma. and we assign weights. Each input has got an individual weightage. What is the weightage of input 1? What is the weightage of input 2? And what is the weightage of input 3? See, in all the inputs have different weightage. You cannot have same significance for each input. So different weights are assigned to the inputs, and they undergo a processing in a hidden layer. We also exactly don't know what processing is done in the hidden layer, but we assume that there are certain mathematical functions. Like here I have considered sigmoid squashing function. Sometimes you also use log half max functions for processing in the hidden layer. And there is a processing of these inputs based on some weight and amplification in the hidden layer, and you get an output. So what if I talk about the structure prediction? Here I have trained my neural network with different sequences and their known secondary structure, so that when I get an unknown sequence, the test sequence, the unknown sequence, my classifier is able to categorize that unknown sequence into alpha helical form, into beta strands, or into turns and coils. So it is a learning method, a supervised learning method, whereby you have trained your classifier based on the known inputs, based on the known structures of the specific sequences, to run on the unknown sequence and classify it into a particular secondary structure type. So that's ANN. And the tools which are using ANN are Cypred, PhDSec. There are many others also, JPred. So Cypred is a tool which is based on SciBLAST algorithm. BLAST, as ma'am must have told you, Roma ma'am, that BLAST is used to find the homologs based on the local similarity. So SciBLAST is position specific iterative blast, which is used in case to find distant homologs. Sometimes it happens that by running normal blast like blast P, we don't get the homologs. So we have to go for a next iteration round. So SciBLAST does 4 to 5 iterations again and again. It makes a specific profile based on the position of each sequence, and it does second iteration, third iteration, multiple rounds of blast iterations are done to find the distant homologs in SciBLAST. So when you have to predict the secondary structure of an unknown protein and you are not able to find the near homolog by near neighbor method or ANN, then you go for the SciBLAST profile. It considers the long range interactions. Like this, I have shown you that PhDSec neural net, it uses the ANN. Amino acid at a particular position is used as an input. Then in hidden layer, you have the processing based on the training, what has been imparted to the classifier. And as an output, you get alpha helical hoga, ya beta strand hoga, ya loop hoga. Similarly, for the Cypred, you have the window like this. You give the input sequence. You have to select what I want to do, whether I want to predict the secondary structure. For secondary structure, we use Cypred. If you have to predict transmembrane topology, you go for MEMSET. If you have to find out the fold, you go for GenThreader. And in output, you select what you want to get, whether you want to have a simple blast output or you want to get distant homologs. There you have to select return SciBLAST hits only. And it's optional. You can give your email address if you want to get the outputs on the email. So this is how the user interface of Cypred looks. And in output, you get a confidence level of Cypred. 0 to 9 is the scoring range for the confidence level. And predicted secondary structure, if it is a good prediction, you will get 9, very good confidence level. And if it is a low confidence level, you will get value as 0. Normally 0 we don't consider into account. And the secondary structure you will get as H, E, or C. I'll give you in my practical for 10 minutes, I will tell you about the Chow, Fasman, and Gore. So for any questions, you can write to me on my email ID or you can ping me on my WhatsApp at this number. Thank you very much.